This is an unboxing and installation guide to the Creality BLTouch version 3.1 for the Ender3 version 2, Ender3, Ender3 Pro, and I believe it will work on the Ender5 and Ender5 Pro. I purchased this on Amazon, and it came basically the next day. It's packaged in very neat foam, and here's a full color installation menu and some M3 screws and a 4 feet cable. Also comes with some zip ties, 5-piece of zip ties. And some more M3 screws. And here's the BLTouch itself. You can see here is a BLTouch version 3.1. It also comes with an extra BLTouch probe needle. 3 brackets, that's original bracket for the original Ender. And here's the bracket for the Ender 3 Max, I believe. And the last bracket is for the Ender 3 version 2. It's the smallest one. It's made out of metal. I believe it's made out of aluminum. Here we can see the cable is approximately 4 feet long. It's a 5-pin cable for the BLTouch. And here we can see that how the BLTouch should be plugged into the wire with the metal tabs facing towards you. And this BLTouch is made for the 32-bit Creality board, so 4.2.2 and 4.2.7. Here's the installation menu. I think it's a little out of date, but I'll include it in the links down below. So first, we're going to start by removing all the zip ties with the bolt and tube and the wiring harness on the carriage. You can flip the printer around. On the other side, there's one screw, an M3 screw. Unscrew that to remove the fan shroud, and we can remove the fan shroud, exposing the hot end. Remove that one single screw down in the panel, and flip the printer upside down and remove the 3 screws. Be careful when you're removing this cover. There's a fan and a wire attached to it. Put it, secure it safely somewhere while you work on the wiring. I am actually feeding the wire using the sheathing that already came with the printer, so it will make everything neater. So I'll have to remove the zip tie and work my way through the sheathing. It took a while. It wasn't too hard, but you managed to get it through. It ends up being very neat afterwards. So here's the plug, the 5-pin connector. It only goes in one way. The side of the tab should face the X, Y, and Z extruder motor, kind of like how it is shown here. So Here's the 5-pin connector, and you would hear a click when you plug it in. Make sure it's secure firmly, and it does so that it doesn't wiggle out. And you can see here my board comes with the Creality 4.2.2. Sorry for the shaky camera, but it's a original Creality stock board 4.2.2. It's now time to put everything all back together, and you'll have to zip tie back the wiring harness and the sheathing. Take care when you putting it back together, because the 40-20 extrusions are very sharp. You want to fit the wiring harness in through the bottom bracket here and zip tie it so it comes out the end of the printer. Remove the excess zip tie. And just be careful when you put the cover back on, so that the wiring harness is not being crimped down when you screw the fan bracket into the extrusion. And doing so will cause a short somewhere, and it'll be a very bad day. Tighten all 3 screws, and you can flip the printer back normal way. Secure that last screw on the panel as shown. And in the video, I mounted the bracket upside down throughout the video, and so I used a spacer. If the probe doesn't touch the bed, you have mounted it wrong. This is the correct position in mounting the bracket. There's a small semicircular groove in the top. And you can see right now, this is the way that I was mounting the bracket, and that's the upside down position. Don't do the way that I did over here. Use the M3x8 bolts to mount the bracket, and make sure you mount it in the correct orientation. So do the opposite of what's shown here, upside down. And here's the BLTouch. And plug in the 5-pin BLTouch wire with the metal side facing up as shown. Take a little bit of care when plugging it in. You might need to use 2 hands to push it in evenly. Make sure the connector is in, fully in all the way. Use the other M3 bolts. They're M3x6 bolts, and you can use the Allen key, and you can screw it into the bracket. Then mount the fan shroud back onto the carriage. Go to the back of the printer and screw that M3 bolt back in. Then take the provided zip ties and you can tie the wiring harness to the bolt and tube just like before. Take care not to pull the zip tie too tightly, or you're gonna obstruct the way the filament goes into the hot end. Remove the excess. And after that, we're gonna go format our SD card to update the firmware. Make sure to format the SD card with FAT32. There's a drop down here. Make sure you selected FAT32 and go ahead and format it. Go to the Creality official website, creality.com/download. Go to Ender3 version 2 printer, or whichever printer you have, and download the firmware. I am using the 4.2.2 board, so I download my corresponding version. And go to your downloads folder and open the file and drag out or extract the folder onto your desktop. And go into your SD card, open that and put it to the side. Then open the folder that you just extracted. Go to the BLTouch non-adapter board firmware. Drag that bin file onto the SD card. While you're at it, also go to the original firmware folder and drag the dwinset folder onto the SD card. The dwinset is the firmware for the LCD. Afterwards, eject the SD card. Then go to your LCD and unplug the cable behind. You can push up to unmount the LCD on the side of the printer. There are 4 bolts on the back of the LCD. I believe they are M4 bolts. So go ahead and unscrew those 4 bolts, and you might need a credit card to wedge into a credit card or gift card or plastic pry tool to open up the back of the LCD panel. Just slide it all the way around and the back panel should come off. Take the micro SD card and plug it into the SD card slot with the logo facing towards you. You would hear a click sound and a little bit of spring pressure. So once it's in. Plug the cable back into the LCD. You don't have to close it for now. You don't have to close the LCD backing for now. You can just leave it on its mount. As long as it's plastic, it's not going to short out anything. Then it's time to turn on the printer. Once it's on, it takes a couple of seconds, and the LCD should turn bright orange when the new LCD firmware is flashed onto it. Take the SD card out and plug it back into the printer. Here I have a SD adapter. Turn on the printer, and the BLTouch should light up right away while it's flashing the firmware. As you can see, takes a few seconds, then the Creality logo would pop up. And here's a picture of the BLTouch version 3.1. As you can see here, the firmware's in Chinese because everything got resetted. So go to the second icon. I believe that's prepare. And scroll down all the way to the bottom. And there's an A there. I have to press the button 2 times for it to switch to English. And here we go. We're in English. And you can go back to back, and everything would be in English, and everything would be fine. But I prefer not to use the Creality firmware because it's old, and so we're going to plug the SD card back into the computer and delete everything off it. There's a new version of the firmware that's on GitHub. I'm going to post the URL down in the bottom of the video. I found this on Reddit on the Ender3 version 2 forums. It's by Jyers, and it's being worked on, I think, daily. As I think it was worked on yesterday when I was making this video, so 22 hours ago. Go to the green code button and click download zip. Once the zip file is downloaded, open it. He's made a precompiled firmware and also the code for the firmware. So it's very easy for us to flash to the new version. Once you have the file opened, you can drag that the entire folder onto the desktop. If you want, you can actually take a look at this code and modify it in VS Code and recompile it. So go ahead, close everything, and let's take a look at this folder. Go to the precompiled firmware folder. Here there are multiple versions. I'll be using the BLTouch 5x5. Also included is a 5x5 HS, which is the high-speed version of the firmware. I prefer to use the slower version, just the 5x5. I think it's a little bit more accurate when probing the bed. There are 3x3 and the 3x3 high-speed. Copy that file, or whichever version you want, onto the SD card. And then eject the SD card. Plug the SD card back into your printer. The white LCD on the side is my Raspberry Pi. So turn on the printer again. And it should flash to the new version of the firmware. This version works with the Raspberry Pi, and it also shows a print status, and there are other features included. So Once the firmware is ready, go to Control and Advanced. Go to Probe X Offset. I use -50. That brings a probe closer to the bottom left first screw. When it's probing, you can try different values, and I think I used -4.7 for the probe Y offset. So hit back and then store settings. And in Control, you can also go to motions and change your E steps. So steps per millimeter. I have a metal single gear extruder. My E step value was 98.3, so I'm doing that right now. And make sure you store the setting. Store setting here, but I forgot to do it while I was filming the video. So go to Prepare and Preheat PLA. Once the temperature gets to your desired temperature, whatever temperature you usually print at, then you can go to the main menu and hit Level. It's going to probe the center of the bed first 2 times, and like I said, some people prefer 3 times, but it's up to you. You can go into his firmware and edit his code. Through the magic of video editing, I'm showing you how it probes the bed at 4 times the speed, because I'm probing 25 points, so it takes quite a bit of time. I think like 2-3 minutes to probe the entire bed. I have some low spots in my glass bed, so I think more probe points tend to be a little better. I'd rather it take longer to probe the bed each time than, be a little bit more accurate. And it's done probing the bed. It's going to ask you to confirm to save the mesh into EEPROM, so go ahead and confirm that. Then go into the slicer of your choice. I'm using Cura. Go into printers and machine setting. Go to the start of the Gcode and insert these 2 Gcodes. I'll link them in the description down below. G28, which homes, and G29 starts the bed leveling process. Go ahead and insert it, so whenever you have to print something, it would automatically home and automatically probe the bed. I also use OctoPrint, and I want to see how my bed looks. So go into the settings and plugin manager, get more, and type bed level visualizer. Go ahead and install the plugin. It would take a little bit of time. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3B. I believe it's fast enough for what it needs to do. I know the Raspberry Pi 4 is faster, but I'm using it for a different project. Go ahead, restart the Raspberry Pi, and then it will activate the plugin, and we can go from there. Once the server is back up and going, go ahead and reload the Raspberry Pi OctoPrint GUI. On the upper right hamburger menu, there should now be a bed level visualizer. Right there, bed visualizer. Go ahead, click setting once you're in here. And you'll need to put in a Gcode so that it can view the Gcode mesh. I'll link it in the description down below. M420T1V. I'll link it in the description down below. Go ahead, save. Then you can update the mesh. So you can see here my bed has a little bit of a low spot right in the left middle. The red is the x-axis and the green is the y-axis. So whenever you need to see the bed visualizer, you can go back into this menu and click update mesh, and you would see what the bed mesh looks like. And lastly, you need to figure out the Z offset. Go ahead, auto home it, and you'll need a sheet of sticky notes. Once it finishes auto homing, you have to move the Z to 0.0. And you can see there's quite a bit of space there between the nozzle and the bed. Then go to Z offset, enable live adjust, and you can try a negative value. I think after I repositioned the bracket, I got around negative 2.0 and negative 2.1. What you want is kind of like leveling your bed when that sheet of paper is just hugging the nozzle and you feel that little bit of tension, just a tiny bit of tension, then that would be the correct Z offset. You can use the micro step up and down to adjust to where you need, and then keep trying until you get that value for your printer. Once you're done, click save, and you can back out of the menu and back out of the menu. Then enjoy your perfect first layer. Overall, I think this is a great mod. The BLTouch makes bed leveling a lot easier. I don't have to use a sticky note all the time now. And it's a very easy to do add-on for your printer. Go ahead and click the link down below if you need to purchase one. There's an Amazon affiliate link, and I think I get some kickback. It won't cost you anything. I think I get some kickback from Amazon, so that I can do more cool 3D printing stuff. Go ahead, check back on my channel. Maybe later I'll post a video on the BMG Win, which I just received. I'll try to film how I installed it. And thank you very much for watching. And yeah, so enjoy your BLTouch. Have a good one.